Hello and welcome to the Novato City Council Candidates Debate, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Marin County. I'm League Member Judy Binsaca, and I'll be your moderator. And with us is League Member Nancy Godfrey, who will be our timekeeper. The four candidates with us today are running for a 4-year term for 2 seats on the City Council. And they are Denise Athas, Pat Ecklund, Stephen Jordan, and Eleanor Sluis. The candidates will make opening statements of 2 minutes each, and we'll begin with Denise Athas.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us here today. My name is Denise Athas, and I've served on the council since 2009 and served as mayor last year. I'm also a 24-year real estate broker, own my own company on Grant Avenue in downtown Novato. I'm rerunning for city council because I'm not done. I want to be part of Novato's future and help it be everything that it has the potential to be. I've honored my open door policy, and I've met with students, seniors, business owners, and anyone who has suggestions or issues. I listen and do the best to help and to follow up. My past history of being president of the Chamber of Commerce and 2 years as president of the Downtown Novato Business Association helps me understand the needs of many. Currently, I serve on the board of Marin Clean Energy. I'm also on the executive board and serve as treasurer. I'm also serve on the Community Development Block Grant Priority Setting Committee of the county, and I'm also on the executive committee of the North Bay League of California Cities. I think I give a unique perspective to the office and want to continue to move Novato forward. Thanks very much.
Pat Eklund.
My name is Pat Eklund, and I'm honored to serve as your mayor. I approach every day with the dedication to improving our community, strengthening our neighborhoods, and maintaining the small town character and spirit of our city with openness and transparency. We're making progress on a variety of issues. I know we're not done yet, and with your help, I will continue to work side by side with you to make Novato even better. That means continue to prioritize our expenses, making tough decisions to eliminate our budget deficit. Stay focused on the most important priorities, and there's no more important priority than public safety. Focus on creating higher paying jobs by building on the growing biotech and video gaming industries that have made Novato their home. We can get higher paying jobs so we can work and live in our town. Continue our environmental efforts that improves our quality of life by completing the retrofitting of our streetlights to LED fixtures and improving our successful recycling programs. Novato needs leaders who have proven that they can make tough decisions, stand up for our values, and demand better for Novato than politics as usual. I have a long record as a public advocate, making sure that government works for all of us and not just for the people who work in government. That's why I believe we need proven, experienced leaders, and that's why I'm running for re-election. I love our city, and I'm prepared to keep fighting to keep it the town that we all love.
Thank you. Steve Jordan.
Hi, my name's Stephen Jordan. I've lived in Novato for 32 years, serving citizens in that town, working on local businesses such as Egger Nurseries. I own the Gift Carousel in downtown Novato, and currently my wife and I own Creekside Bakery. In those businesses, I have the opportunity to have daily interactions with customers that invariably lead to conversations about the town that we all call home. We talk about its good points and the points that need improvement. Those conversations were the basis for my decision to run for city council. It was to provide a voice for those people whose viewpoints I hear on a daily basis that currently aren't represented that well on the council. I know my background in running businesses that were oriented to the needs of the public will serve me well as a member of the city council. That is, listening and understanding to people's needs and concerns, being able to make the proper decisions at the right time, and having a clear understanding of the responsibility that comes with providing value and service for every dollar that we spend. Thank you.
Eleanor Sluis.
Hello, and again, thank you for having us. My name's Eleanor Sluis, and I've been a resident for about 24 years, and in the area for about 26. The reason I am running is because I also am concerned about what's happening in Novato. One of the things is I support safe surroundings, a balanced budget, cohesive downtown development, and Hamilton's fight for a small town park. Basically, I'm a people person, I'm from the country, and I believe in rural towns forging their own destiny. I believe in local control. I support, again, local control, safe surroundings, balanced budget, cohesive development, and the Novato Theater, and again, Hamilton's right. And I will repeat that because it's so important that we follow these issues from the public. We have a lot of special interests that are trying to take us away from our focus of our families, which 74% of the people want to take care of seniors and activities for our teenagers. Maintenance workers are needed. An emergency coordinator is needed. So that's part of our issues, and these are underfunded. So again, hiring, personnel, planning, and putting priorities that are needed for the public come first.
And now for the questions. The candidates will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and the first to answer will be Pat Eklund. What should the council do to relieve the taxpayers and the city budget from the growing burden of city employee pensions?
Actually, the city of Novato has been very judicious in the pensions. In fact, Novato's unfunded liability is one of the smallest in Marin County. We have changed the city employee pension program for new employees that were hired after last year. We also have asked our employees at great cost to them to pay for their entire contribution so that the city is not paying for their contribution to the pension program as well as the city itself. So that has actually reduced quite a bit of the burden on the city of Novato. And you know what? Novato never has provided health care and retirement. That's huge. The health care unfunded liability of other cities is so large for Novato, it's very manageable. It's less than probably about $3 million. And that's because we only pay $100 for each employee each year to participate in the program, but we pay zero part of their health care. So Novato has already done a lot, and we're waiting for the other cities in Marin to catch up to Novato.
Okay. Steve.
I think it is admirable that Novato has taken the steps it has to reduce the unfunded pension liabilities through the areas that Pat mentioned. I come from a private sector background where we knew nothing like that, where somebody would pay for your pension. It was something you put in and you'd have a match of a sort. And I think if the city, as they go forward in trying to solve these liabilities, looks at private businesses and see how they deal with asking their employees to contribute to their own pension plans, along with medical, I think it would be the step in the right direction to limit those liabilities and hopefully someday not have them.
Eleanor.
Thank you. Our pension obligation bonds are a big issue. We have, I don't know how much, but I know we do have about 90 million liabilities, and we have about $323 million in assets. So going forward, it's a matter of reducing the pension liability fund interest rates from around 7.5% down to 4 to 4.5%. And over time, this will save the city money. The other thing is that we need to fulfill these obligations to our retirees by having a reserved pension fund. Again, this will save our city money. The other thing is that we do need more personnel. And with more personnel, we need to have better pension funding and to look into, as Steve was saying, for benefits with the businesses. Thank you.
Denise?
Thanks very much. Novato's done everything that we can to date in regards to pension reform that we can legally do. Because we're in the CalPERS system, there are things that you can't do annually. 100% of the employer-paid member contribution has been shifted back to the employee with some backfill from the city. And our employees have been wonderful in helping us negotiate these issues. We've also changed the final pay calculation used to identify the employee's pension from 12 months to 3 years. We eliminated the reporting of the EPMC as compensation. We put a cap on employee pension at retirement, safety at 90%, miscellaneous at 100% of final pay per state law. And we created a new tier for new hires coming into the system. We do have $2.7 million in unfunded liability for health care and are trying to consider ways right now to maybe pay that off with other monies. The one thing we know is that pension costs are going to continue to rise, but this needs to be addressed on a state level. For now, we've done everything that we can do, and so have our employees. And now it's really up to the legislature to take it further.
Steve will be the first to answer the next question. The general plan update has been going very slowly. Are there any aspects of the general plan revision that are most critical to address?
The one that comes to mind immediately would be the North Redwood corridor. It is the largest parcel in the downtown that is undeveloped at this point, and what the city envisions there, what the public would like, and what the property owners would like to see there is still yet to be determined. I think that would need to be moved forward at the best possible speed, because that is where revenue that we need in this town is going to come from in the future.
Thank you. Eleanor?
One of the biggest issues has been housing, and that's with the Plan Bay area, APAG, and the Transportation District, NTC. These clubs are organizations which subcontract for the state and the county, enforce quotas for building large 100 units or more subsidized housing in our rural areas, along with expensive bus station transfer centers with our tax dollars, without considering Novato's needs for maintenance, infrastructure, and safety personnel. First, I don't like quotas. They don't fit into plans and goals. So our environmental part of the general plan has to be looked at as to the aesthetics and the areas that most of the residents want to keep rural and as a small town. We have our goals for cohesive development, which complements the agricultural and open space surroundings. So again, the general plan as it is well and good, and it's adapting to these enforced quotas from the state that is difficult.
Okay. Denise?
We were really well on our way to going and dealing with our general plan update a few years ago, but we got blindsided by the affordable housing issue in our town. The housing element basically became the highest priority, and that's what the city decided to deal with the most. We also saw the elimination of the redevelopment agencies, and of course the budget crisis and the recession really took the needs and the attention of the city away from the general plan update. But now we are concentrating on the general plan again. The general plan defines our future and guides our growth. It's a very critical element that we need to deal with. It deals with housing issues, community identity, economic development, conservation and open space, transportation, public facilities, safety, and noise. But right now we're in the process of dealing with the North Redwood corridor and other areas of economic interest. On just yesterday, as a matter of fact, we had a general plan start with a community charrette in regards to our North Redwood corridor. And we had a bunch of community people who came. It looked like it was about 100 people that gave us their opinions, looked at things, and tried to brainstorm as to what they would like to see the area be and how we could define it for our future. This, of course, is private land, and we will need to work with making sure that the economic viability is good for the property owners, the developers in the future, and most importantly, deal with the values and services for residents and destination visitors.
Pat?
Yes, we were working on the general plan and focusing on the housing element when it was obvious that we needed to spend more time with our community to make sure that we identified the appropriate sites for affordable housing. Novato has been very lucky. We have been achieving our housing numbers up until this last cycle. And so now that housing element is the most important critical part of the general plan for right now, because if the housing element is not approved by December, then and submitted to the Housing and Community Development Department for the state of California, then we will lose $1 million of transportation funds, and more importantly, there's a high probability that our housing numbers will be doubled because our next cycle of housing equals what we're planning for right now. The sites that we've been working on and with the community, we're focusing on 23 units per acre with a senior overlay not exceeding 30 units per acre. The community, which I totally support, does not want high density housing. And so now that we've identified the sites, we're going to hopefully be able to finalize them in November, December, and submit it to the state.
Okay. Eleanor would be the first to answer the next question. You briefly referred to the North Redwood Corridor, but the question is, what is your particular vision for the North Redwood Corridor?
Thank you for asking. The North Redwood Corridor has to complement the downtown. We have to have cohesive development. The heart of downtown is basically at Redwood and Grant. So when you go from DeLong and turn right and on Redwood, and then you turn right again on Grant or left, that area is very important to the small businesses there. One of the things is not to have a huge bus transfer depot station, which spending $3 million by the transportation authorities right as you enter Novato. The other entrance to Novato is at Atherton and Redwood. So going to the same workshop that the other two people have gone to, there was a lot of discussion. The things that came up for the community were swimming pools, soccer, an area such as farming and bringing in local produce, such as the Ferry Building, a smaller version of that, or like Sebastopol or even Emeryville. So there are people out there who want to preserve the agricultural roots of Novato. Thank you.
Denise?
There's a lot of great ideas that came out of yesterday's charrette, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more. So I'm very interested in hearing what the community has. My personal vision of the area is to really make sure that we are using it as an economic viable center, that we are looking to see as much economic growth as we can from that area, but it's not going to take us out of our problems. So we want to make sure that it meets the needs and the character of our city. My personal vision is that we definitely don't see a sea of parking coming off of Redwood Boulevard, but that when we look to our left, we actually see, much like our downtown, that the buildings being brought to the street and having parking behind that. I'd love to see an area where people can gather, not in the scale of the town center or the village in Corte Madera, but definitely the idea of having an area where we could have a farmer's market in the center of an area like that, and be able to see the community gather and kids playing in water features and fountains. I'd also like that to be something that is interesting and enticing from the freeway so that we manage to get destination visitors to our town. We need to seek that area for bicycles and pedestrians, as well as using it for entertainment for our youth, and trying to find some need there that would be filled in what our community would really like to see.
Pat?
We have a great opportunity on the Redwood Quarter to really create a sense of place, a place to be and a place to go to. One of the ideas that I've been promoting is a linear park down Redwood Boulevard, similar to something like what they did in South Park in San Francisco, where you have walking paths and biking paths, and you have children's play areas, and maybe some kiosks and benches and picnic tables where people can really go and spend time as part of our downtown, expansion of our downtown. The other concept that I'm also advocating and looking at is the concept of 4th Street in Berkeley. If you've never been to 4th Street in Berkeley, where Spinger's and then to Crate and Barrel Outlet Store, I urge you to go and just walk that one block area, and you will feel a sense of intimacy, some shopping choices, great restaurants, benches every 5 feet. It would be fantastic if we were able to bring that to Redwood Boulevard so that we can continue the intimacy of our downtown. But I do not believe that this community wants another shopping center. And I think that the people in our community want really higher paying jobs so we can live and work here. That is also a great place on the eastern side of the railroad tracks for biotechnology and possibly some more video game industries or high tech.
Steve?
Thank you. My personal vision for that is something that would reflect on the true heritage of Novato, its agricultural heritage. Years ago, we were the town that grew the vegetables and grew the eggs and grew the fruit and shipped that off to San Francisco. And that's become a very in vogue thing these days, with us being the gateway to Western Marin and Western Sonoma and all the agricultural bounties that are out there. And also to give us the opportunity to do what some other towns have not done when they revitalize areas, and that is to discard the businesses that were crucial in building the infrastructure of the town. You have businesses like, it is further south from this, but Novato Builder Supply and Marin Landscape. You have the feed store down there, and it would be nice if there was some way to integrate those into an agricultural themed shopping center that envelops a lot of the ideas that have been brought up here, the linear park, a gathering place for the community, something that's in the scale and character of the downtown as we know it now. But I think it would be a very good idea to try to incorporate businesses that have been with us for years rather than trying to relocate them somewhere else in town.
Okay, Denise will be the first one to answer the next question. There is pressure from the state and the feds to look at problems and solutions on a regional basis. Does that make sense to you?
Are you talking about the Plan Bay Area would basically be?
That would be one of them.
Okay. You know, I mean, definitely the Plan Bay Area is a very, very big issue all over our county and Bay Area. And it came from SB 375, requiring the state's 18 metro areas to reduce the greenhouse gases from cars and trucks to combat climate change. But it seems to have really broadened from there, definitely talking about areas that have public transit and other services, and wanting to have priority development areas, what they refer to as PDAs. Novato doesn't have any PDAs, and therefore there's forfeited money from the MTC to give communities who have that particular plan. Novato voted unanimously, the Novato Council voted unanimously to actually approve the Bay Area plan because of the fact that we had 415 homes that we needed to build over the next cycle. That was good for Novato, and actually it's good for Marin County with the numbers that we had overall. The alternatives of the plan and what the state wants us to do did not give us what we needed, so we felt that we really had to go with that and risk the possibility of having bigger numbers. The biggest thing is local control. We need to maintain it. It's essential that we have to ensure that our community has a voice in deciding where the future housing will be built and what we want in our own towns.
Pat?
Yes, it's very important, I think, for the San Francisco Bay Area to look at itself and plan for itself, especially to ensure its economic viability in competing with other geographic areas. But I firmly believe in making sure that whatever plan there is at a regional level, that it does not usurp the local control. Cities and counties, we should be able to determine what is best for our town, not a region, not a state, not the federal government. For the Plan Bay Area, that's just one of the regional efforts that have been embarked on over the many years of regional government. And I've had mixed feelings about the Plan Bay Area, but one of the things that the Plan Bay Area does is it really helps Novato and it helps Marin County. What it does is it shifts the jobs and the housing to where that growth is going to be, which is in the Silicon Valley. That's driving the economic engine of our San Francisco Bay Area. So as a consequence, our housing numbers in Novato, and I worked really hard to get them down to 415. That is almost 2/3 or almost 100% less than what we've had to do in the past. But more importantly than ever, we need to make sure we have local control.
Okay, Steve?
I'm not a supporter of Plan Bay Area or any other project like that that comes from the state that determines our housing needs based on growth over an area that most of those areas we don't even have anything in common with. The claim that we'll be able to retain our local control comes from the entity that encouraged us to start redevelopment districts and then one day decided that we didn't need them anymore and put our cities in a bind. I think Novato has the talent and the ability to solve its own problems internally, and that includes housing. While I understand there might be benefits to a broad-scale plan like Bay Area, I think the possible negatives outweigh it. It did start with SB 375, and then the proposed zoning of properties throughout town for high-density affordable housing. And a lot of those were church properties where members of those properties that I know were told that they were not using them properly efficiently, and that's why that property had been targeted. And then we find out now that SB 1 is following on the heels of SB 375, which would give these new agencies, similar to a redevelopment agency, the ability to seize property by eminent domain for inefficient use of the property. I have a mistrust of the state on that particular level, and I would encourage as a council member that we do everything we can in our power to solve our own housing problems without the aid of the Association of Bay Area Governments.
Okay. Eleanor?
As I said before, these agencies, Plan Bay Area, ABAG, MTC, are all about federal funding, and they are subcontracts. They're not elected officials. They are bureaucrats trying to get as much money for their plans. Their plans are not Novato's plans. Our plans are to continue slow growth, low density, 20 units per acre, and to concentrate on the Redwood Boulevard and a cohesive development for the downtown. This means that our monies need to follow what we have is Measure F funds. Those Measure F funds are supposed to go for safety personnel, for maintenance and infrastructure. With the Plan Bay Area, with these enforced quotas, means that we are not able to give the citizens and residents what they want for their youth, for youth activities, for the seniors, and for families. So Novato has done its work. It's gone overboard in providing enough housing. So it's time that Novato has local control, and we will provide more housing as it fits within our general plan. Thank you.
Pat will be the first to answer the next question. Do you believe Measure F, the sales tax measure, should be extended?
The answer to the question is no at this time, because Measure F was originally identified as a 5-year tax to help us get over this hump that the city was experiencing. And we have not been spending a lot of that Measure F. A lot of it has been just saved until we finish our long-term sustainability and organizational plan. But we are spending some Measure F money on items that I think were really not part of Measure F. We've spent some Measure F money on the Economic Development Director, on the Public Information Officer, on the developer for Hamilton and Shop Novato and some of those things. Measure F was really to plug some of the holes of maintenance and law enforcement and some of those other areas that Novato holds really dear to its heart. So we're going to be looking at how the remaining funds of Measure F should be used, and that in part will make the final decision. But at this point, I think we can balance the budget, which there's only $300,000 more that we need to find in the budget to have a balanced budget. I really need to say how we're going to get there, and before I would ever consider extending Measure F. So at this point, I'm not in favor of extending it.
Steve?
Thank you. When Measure F was first presented, as a member of the Downtown Novato Business Association, we attended a meeting hosted by the city. And the question I brought up at the time to the city manager was, with the bullet points on the board as to what the money was going to go for, it appeared to be a specific tax, and I was informed it was a general tax, so it needed a lesser threshold of a vote to pass. And I never supported it at that point simply because it looked very specific for what it said it was going to be used for. Some of the things Pat mentioned, making sure that we had sufficient police services. So the fact that it has been passed as a temporary tax, one that was supposed to sunset, which I've joked, when the sun sets, it comes up again the next morning. So you have to be careful what you wish for. This wish to renew it after it was promoted as a temporary tax, I wouldn't support it. I couldn't support it. I think it would just lessen the credibility of the city to even ask for it, because they apparently did a lot of work to get the numbers right the first time. So no, I would not support Measure F a second time.
Eleanor?
Thank you. I do not support it because the funds have been misdirected. The community's impression of Measure F funds was for safety personnel, for infrastructure, maintenance. And these are the main areas that seniors and families want for their children. Then also to work with the educational areas of the college and the high school to provide programs with parks and recreation for the activities for the graduating seniors and all of the teenagers that we have. Measure F needs to be redirected for these activities and not for almost $1 million, actually, for $250,000 to support Redwood Boulevard's new development. $250,000 or more with 2 more administrators. Novato is administrator heavy and needs to realign for personnel that Novato wants, such as emergency full-time coordinator and maintenance crew. These are first responders in case of an earthquake. Thank you.
Denise?
Thank you. Measure F was voted in by the taxpayers with a half-cent sales tax that would go for 5 years, and we're about 2 years into that. What people need to remember is that the council does not have the authority to just extend a tax like that. If it is recommended or if it was voted on by the council to make it look like we would go into a ballot measure, ultimately it would be the decision of the people of whether or not that would happen. And also we have an options tool on our website. We've been doing a fiscal sustainability for over 10 months, looking at ways that we can generate revenue. And out of the city manager's recommendations, it was stated that what could occur if we did have an extension on that sales tax after the 3 years. Again, it would be a decision of the people, not of the council. Council would only state whether or not it would go on a ballot in the future. Personally, I believe that we need to seek other ways to look for revenue, not on the backs of our people. I'm hoping that we don't have to go there. And it's my opinion right now that I would like to see that we do not go for an extension of that tax. The tax right now is fleshing out that $310,000, and we'll be use that as part of the filling that money, and it also will keep us at a reserve of over 15%. And we do have an oversight committee that's looking on how to spend that money.
Steve will be the first to answer the next question. What should the City Council do to help make Novato's downtown more vibrant?
Thank you very much for that question. Well, I currently own a business in the downtown with my wife, and I own the Gift Carousel, a gift store that had been in the downtown for a long time. Served as president of the Downtown Novato Business Association for a couple of years, as well as the chair of the marketing committee. I've been vocal in this at a lot of downtown meetings. I really don't think that there's, and I'll have to repeat myself, anything that the city or really any organization can do in and of itself, and that it usually, when a downtown revitalizes, there are things that the city can do to help foster this, but it's usually the arrival of a singular business that somehow turns that downtown around. Santa Fe's got its own little miracle in soul food, which totally revitalized a whole block of that downtown, and with very little assistance from any particular group. It's just something that they did that worked. Our downtown has businesses that are doing that currently. Finnegan's has created a nice nightlife downtown. Las Guitars has done it with adding entertainment. La Hacienda and Rustic have created a buzz at their end. Plug from my bakery, Creekside Bakery does it, but we're hidden so you don't see it. I think what the city can do is to just have more adaptive and open policies to allow businesses to want to come to downtown, whereas now there seems to be the impression that it's difficult to open a business, and I think that that precludes some of those catalysts from coming to our town.
Eleanor?
Our downtown is a great downtown for many of us, seniors, families, and even young people, with the events, the candy store, the diverse restaurants, Mexican restaurants, the Indian restaurant, and then we have the gift shops, Austin Morris's gift shop. So there's a lot of, and some clothing shops, which are really neat too. So I'm a supporter of the downtown. However, we do have vacancies, and one of the issues are where to put parking. Can we afford a parking garage? How could that come in place? Another area is the community house, to remodel it, to look at it, because that's a historic structure, plus Simmons House, Kuzer House, and some of the other homes, the historic homes. One of the ideas was to cut every other tree down on the Grant Avenue so that you would still have plenty of sycamores, which grow 90 feet high, 60 feet wide, for shade in the next 10 years. Downtown is a work in progress, and this is to be connected to Redwood Corridor. If that were to have an agricultural area with the cheeses and the local produce, then people would be more in tune to come to museos for restaurant and for wonderful food and banking and whatever we have downtown. Thank you.
Denise?
Like Steve, I also served on the downtown as president for 2 years, served on the board for, I believe, over 7, and it's one of the most near and dear things to my heart. I still meet with the downtown a couple of times a month to try and help figure out ways that they can get more vibrant. Two of the areas right now I think that are starting to come in, which are so great, is food and entertainment. We need more of that. We need more critical mass to be able to bring people downtown. And we need the stores to stay open so that when people come home off of their commute, they're able to go downtown and actually shop after they eat at one of our restaurants or go to one of our events. Trek Winery and Las Guitarras have wonderful evenings, comedy nights that are bringing in top name entertainment from San Francisco and comedy competitions all over. And it is just wonderful evenings, and community gathers and has wonderful times. We do have events on the street, and a lot of times there's a difference between the businesses feeling whether or not the events are actually helping their businesses. But it's all bringing community downtown, and that's what's so important and what we need more of. So my feeling is that we need more of the entertainment, we need more restaurants, and we need more shopping to be able to have some destination for people to want to come and spend some time.
Pat?
Novato has done a lot for the downtown. In fact, I believe in early 2000, the city completed renovating Grant Avenue, planting trees, flattening out the street, repaving it, making the sidewalks wider so people could stroll the avenue. So that was millions of dollars that the city spent in order to help begin the revitalization. There's no question we need an anchor downtown. Peeney's has been vacant for over a decade. I think that the city needs to work with the property owner to try to accelerate his renovation of that building or demolition and building something. We may need to look at if there's any incentives that the city can also provide to be able to bring an anchor to the downtown that normally wouldn't come downtown to Novato. But we have little pockets of exciting areas, as mentioned, the Rustic Bakery, the Trek Winery, the downtown Novato Theater Group is finally demolishing the inside of the old theater. But we need shopping choices. We need additional entertainment, and the city also needs to focus on what can we do for the 4 buildings that we have that are vacant that could be used to help bring more people down so it can be a more exciting place to be.
Okay. Eleanor will be the first to answer the next question. What should efforts be made to beef up public safety in Novato? If so, what should be done?
We need first to look at our budget and Measure F funds. And those funds, again, were for safety, personnel, maintenance, and infrastructure in case there's an earthquake. And when you go in those areas, those are the most primary of importance. So Novato has shortchanged its personnel in not providing for a full-time emergency coordinator. This is not beneficial for Novato. Maintenance personnel are very important because they're the crews that will be there for first responders. So it goes back to how is our budget being used and what priorities are being used. How are they being managed? The survey showed that most of the people, 74% of the people who were on the survey want activities for youth and for seniors, and mainly for the youth because we have volunteers for a Blue Ribbon Committee that works with an alcohol problem among the youth, and working with the college, Indian Valley College, for training our youth to become better, more responsible citizens. So the safety, again, is very important, and it depends on the budget.
Denise.
It really is a money issue. As been stated by everybody, everyone knows that public safety is the #1 issue in our town. Everybody wants to have the safest town, and I think that our police department does an absolutely amazing job at keeping it a very low crime area. Yes, we are hit by certain things, but for major crime and things like that, we're very, very lucky and enjoy a very wonderful town. We need more grants. I think our police department does an amazing job of going out there and securing grants. We were able to get 3 policemen, and the city was able to pay for an additional year so we could bring in 4 new police to the area. We are slowly bringing in and trying to build our department again, which is one of my highest ambitions, is to see our police department grow. The police department does carry the majority of costs to our general fund budget, but it's a very needed expense and something that we need to grow on. Our department constantly needs to have upgrades to technology to make sure that they're utilizing their skills out on the streets in the most effective manner. And I'd like to see more things like that happen. We've also had some wonderful programs in the past that affected our youth, like the 15-minute program, where they would go out and actually help with other districts to show the youth what it's like in accidents and drinking and things like that. And I would love to see a police officer be able to be back into our high schools. But it does come down to money, and again, revenue, that we need to figure out how we get it so that we can have the services that we need for our community.
Pat?
Yes, yes, public safety is not only #1 priority for the community, but it's also my #1 priority. Last year, we did establish the neighborhood response team, which is really looking at the hotspots in Novato and really trying to target our efforts. But I have to tell you that we have the same number of police officers today as we did 10 years ago. And yet our population of our community has grown, and also the dynamics and some of the challenges that we're facing have also grown. I believe that we need to use that Measure F money that we've been collecting for more police so that we can reactivate our community police-oriented program. You know, we bought police bicycles a long time ago so that the police could ride the bicycles and do more effective policing and actually work one-on-one more with our community. Those bicycles sit in the police department because we don't have enough police officers to use them. Thanks to the community, we got, through pennies for police dogs, we got a 3rd canine unit, which has really helped our police department to be more reactive. And more defensive for our community. But I have to say, our police department is my #1. They're doing a fantastic job, including from dispatch all the way to sworn and non-sworn officers.
Steve?
Overall, I like the fact that Novato is probably, if not one of the safest communities in my mind in the county. There isn't anywhere I feel uncomfortable walking by myself or with my wife or anybody that's with us any time of the day or night. There are, as Pat said, hot spots. One of them is right behind the bakery. And I think there's always drug deals or some other somewhat nefarious activity going on. And I think while budget increases definitely are needed to provide more officers on the street, I think just simple community interaction with the police department, they're very responsive to us when we call and we see something that's amiss. They respond to any citizen that calls, and they're out there and they take care of the problem. So I think a combination of seeking more funds for more officers and also encouraging the public to be a partner in a community watch. When you see something, call the police. They'll be more than happy to come out and take a look at it. Thank you.
And that concludes the questions. Before the candidates make their closing statements, I want to give you some important dates. Election day is Tuesday, November 5th. The last day to register to vote or to re-register if you've moved since you last voted is October 22nd, 2 weeks before the election. Requests for absentee ballots must be received by the Elections Department by October 28th, 1 week before the election. Early voting opens at the Civic Center, room 121 on October 7th. If you go to the League's smartvoter.org website and enter your street address and zip code, you'll be able to see your own ballot with links to candidates, issues, ballot measures, and information about the voting process itself. In addition, our website, Marin, LWV.org, has many other online resources for voters to research facts and campaign financial information. And now the candidates will make their closing statements of 1.5 minutes each. Reversing our order of opening statements, we'll begin with Eleanor Sluis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I like our panel. We're good people, and that's what Novato is all about. People, our youth, our seniors, our families, and that's why I like living there. It's a wonderful place and for retirees. Planning in Novato needs to be redirected into fulfilling the goals of the general plan, the downtown specific plan, and the Hamilton plan. And this includes business, environment, and community's long-term vision of Novato. I was on the original strategic plan oversight committee in which the vision and how to meet those goals were so important, and they still are. The city needs solutions for clarity in the budget process, and this will help residents become better informed. Living within our means that Measure F funds basically are for police and maintenance. Residents did not vote for outside special interests, which are right now taking Measure Fund money away from the budget, and practically almost $1 million is in excessive spending. So the priority, as my colleagues have said, is not its economic development, when it should be families and people and how we can improve our community. Thank you.
Stephen Jordan.
Well, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. It's another experience I've never had in my life before. It's been quite enjoyable. I'd like to thank the candidates that are sitting with me here. I had a conversation with Denise earlier that while we might have our differences, we're the only 4 out of 50,000 people that decided to run. So we share the sense of public service and commitment to our community, and I'm thankful to be in the same room with you three. I would like people to stop by the bakery on Saturdays between now and election date. Call for details, but I'm going to be having coffee with the candidate, where you can talk to me and get my viewpoints, and if there's something that resonates with you in those, I would be more than grateful to have your vote this election day, and if elected, I'd be honored to serve as a city council member. Thank you.
Pat Eklund.
I would like to leave you with just a few thoughts. First, I hope I can earn your vote. I learned from my dad that the best you can do in life is to stand up for what you believe in, even if in the most difficult of circumstances. That's why I'm standing up for the community every day on the Novato City Council. Second, I want to continue our conversation about the future of Novato. I welcome the opportunity to hear more of your ideas and to share more of mine. Please call me at home, 883-9116. My number is also on my website, which is www.pateklund.com. Finally, despite all the challenges and the work that still needs to be done, Novato is and will remain a great community. As mayor, as a community activist, neighborhood leader, I've really worked hard to keep it that way. I started in public service by fighting City Hall over a stop sign in my neighborhood. Since then, I've fought much larger battles to preserve our quality of life, and I want Novato residents to know that they have someone who is standing up for them, even if it means taking on politics as usual. With your support, I'll continue our efforts to protect our tax dollars, revitalize our downtown, and improve our schools and parks and protect our environment, and I'll continue working for you.
Thank you. Denise Athas.
I've gone through almost 4 years of the most difficult times in Novato in regards to a tough economic recession, a huge budget deficit, elimination of the redevelopment agency by the state, and the affordable housing issues that absolutely pervaded our city. We've reduced our budget deficit by over 90%. We've hired an economic development director to help brand our city as a biomed, biotech, and bio-life science center. And we've worked to have our units per acre with affordable housing reduced and built under our 20% current ordinance rules that we currently have. With the economy improving and house prices going back up and development like In-N-Out Burger coming back, we're primed to move our city and our people forward. There are 4 stages of growth. survival, stability, success, and significance. When I came in 4 years ago, Novato was truly at the level of survival. I believe now that we're working on stability and success. Tomorrow is built on the choices that are made today. So please re-elect me to another 4 years so I can work with our community to help build a better Novato. My office is located at 1202 Grant Avenue, Suite A2, right next to Musio's Restaurant. You're welcome to stop in anytime. I truly do have an open door policy. Thank you very much, and thank you to the League for this forum.
And that concludes our debate. Thanks to the Community Media Center of Marin for producing our show. Thanks to the candidates for running. Thanks to Nancy for timekeeping. And thanks to the audience for watching.